Pittsburgh's most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. Well, the rain is gone. You can enjoy a nice sunny day going into the weekend. Here's Michael with a check on your forecast.
Not only sunshine, but remember, Tanya, tomorrow is spring equinox.
Watch how I'll do this on a Friday. Technology. 39 right now in Parsons, 37 in Lamar, 41 in Miami. I still do have a little bit of a wind chill that'll drop us into the low 30s here. Only feeling like 31 in Webb City and Neosho, 35, however, in Neodesha and in Parsons. Weather's turning forward today, just like Tanya said. How about a whole bunch of sunshine and temperatures able to make it up into the 50s, and we'll want to repeat by the time we get into Saturday. As a matter of fact, even a little bit warmer here to start our weekend. As I mentioned, spring equinox coming our way on Saturday, 64 and partly sunny skies then on Sunday. And take advantage of the weekend, whether or not your plans involve basketball or not, because by the time we roll the first full week of spring, thunderstorm activity returns. Tanya?
All right, thanks, Michael. Every adult in Missouri will be eligible to get a COVID-19 vaccine starting in early April. Governor Parson announced yesterday the state will move to phases 2 and 3 of its vaccine distribution plan earlier than expected. He says it's due to an influx in vaccines after purchases at the federal level.
When we activated Tier 3, we said we would be able to activate Phase 2 within 45 days of March the 15th. However, with progress we're currently seeing and vaccine supply expected to increase significantly in the coming weeks, we are well ahead of schedule.
The state will move to phase 2 of its vaccine distribution plan on March 29th. The governor says through phase 2, more than 800,000 Missourians will become eligible for vaccines. Those include workers in the construction field, critical manufacturing, higher education, the remaining workers in the food and agriculture sectors, and the state's homeless population. On April 9th, the state will move to phase 3 of its vaccination plan, and that'll make every adult Missourian eligible for a vaccine. Yesterday marked a year since the city of Joplin took its first actions toward preventing the spread of COVID-19. KOAM's Zach Dodge has how far we've come since then as restrictions begin to loosen and the number of new cases are dropping.
We're just going to try to spread vendors out. We're going to try to make sure we have the vendors with probably an extra booth space in between. And we're not going to do any major performances or things like that early on. Just again, trying to reduce spots of congestion.
When Third Thursday does return in April, it will look a bit different. The number of vendors is being limited. Vendors will be more spread out, and there will not be any live performances. Joplin for Justice has created a coalition with other 4 state groups dedicated to social justice, and they're calling on the Joplin School District to hire a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer for the upcoming school year. Excuse me. Sneezed on air there. Don't do that too often. The groups that make up this coalition say the Joplin School District is becoming more diverse every year, and hiring a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer will help it adjust to student and staff needs.
A diversity officer is going to have a very specific role targeting policies, practices, and even providing trainings to our staff and faculty. So really focused on making this an inclusive and welcoming environment in every way.
Joplin for Justice says they have not received a response to their hiring request, but says they plan to follow up. Kansas legislators on both sides are trading sometimes bitter accusations as Republican lawmakers advance a proposal to ban transgender students from girls and women's school sports. The GOP-controlled state Senate approved a bill that would enact the ban, sending the measure to the Republican-controlled House. Governor Laura Kelly calls it regressive. The The Senate's top Democrat calls the bill hateful and suggests her male colleagues were arguing that men are just superior. But supporters argue that girls and women would lose scholarships and other life-changing opportunities without such a ban, and repeatedly referred to transgender girls as biological boys. A crash on K7 and 630th Avenue in Crawford County, Kansas kills a Girard man. The Kansas Highway Patrol says Gary Puffenbarger was going west on 630th. The Highway Patrol says he failed to yield and hit a crossing semi. Puffenbarger died at the scene. The driver of the semi was not hurt. Pittsburgh's Little Balkans Day Festival is returning this year. Last year's event was canceled because of the pandemic, and officials say funds donated for last year's event will roll over to this year's. Fees for vendors will also be reduced. The festival will be on Labor Day weekend. 6:07.
Fresh air forecast bringing us sunny skies and temperatures all the way up into the 50s later on today. A little northerly northeast breeze, just 5 to 10 miles per hour. It is our last day of astronomical winter. Spring equinox hits tomorrow, and we'll have more sunshine and be up into the mid-60s on Saturday and Sunday.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, for Pitt State and Missouri Southern. They met on the court last night for their second and final meeting of the spring. We'll have the highlights from that game. Plus, the CDC releases more extensive guidelines for coronavirus testing. And stimulus checks went out this week with many already in Americans' bank accounts. The 3 money moves you should consider before spending it all. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Rivalry night for Pittsburgh State and Missouri Southern volleyball. The two teams meeting in Pittsburgh for their second and final meeting of the spring. Lions aiming to sweep the season series after beating the Gorillas in Joplin earlier this month. Pick it up in the first set. Alyssa Diaz getting up to get it down. Southern rolls in the first set 25-16. On to the second set. Close one early, Jaden Sanford. Cross court keeps it in. But the Lions also take the second set. Big block from CC Pollard. And Pollard with the kill as Southern takes set 2, 25-16. On to the third, Moira Casillas. Find you opening with the touch. But Southern gets the sweep 3-0. 11 kills, 0 errors for CC Pollard.
She played like an upperclassman tonight. I was really impressed with her effort, with her execution, and with her decision making, but she's also a great teammate, and so it was fun to watch her play tonight. I think it's just exciting. It's exciting for our girls, it's exciting for our program, but as rivalries go, this is one of the games that we'll be playing for years, so we have to stay humble.
Missouri Southern basketball standout Cam Martin has entered what's called the transfer portal. Martin's going to transfer as a graduate student, aiming to help out a Division I program next season. Our own Danny Terzer caught up with Cam and head coach Jeff Boschee to talk about Martin's legacy as one of the best to ever take the court at Missouri Southern.
Cam Martin leaves the Missouri Southern basketball program forever changed.
The things that he did on the court are special. I don't think they'll ever be duplicated here. And in 3 seasons, for him to almost become the all-time leading scorer is beyond remarkable.
The decision to transfer wasn't an easy one.
I felt like it was best for me to go to another year of college, and I like to play at the Division I level and try and prove I can do the same thing at the Division I level I did at the Division II level.
Martin credits Missouri Southern for shaping him into the player he is today.
I felt like I got coaches at Missouri Southern, my teammates got me a lot better over the 3 years. A big way you can tell I got better was my perimeter game. And that just came from all summer working with Coach Boschee.
Martin's work ethic has paid off.
His points and his production on the floor will be something that will go down in history. And, I don't think at this level, I don't think I'll ever coach a kid as dominant as Cam.
The news didn't come as much of a shock.
They kind of all pretty much said they didn't think I belonged to the Division II level, and they're just excited to see me go prove and do what I can do at the highest level. And that was really cool hearing that from them.
Now, Martin's focus is on finding a program that is the right fit.
I'm looking to go somewhere where my role is going to be similar to what it was at Missouri Southern, I don't want to see my minutes drop, my playing time drop, points drop. Somewhere that really needs me, not somebody that just wants me.
His long-term plan is to go pro. As for the program he leaves behind, there are big shoes to fill.
I'm trying to find the next Cam Martin right now, and we're going to have to kind of, I guess, fill his spot with a couple people to replace the amount of production and things that he did for this program.
In Joplin, Danny Cherzer, KOAM Sports.
Wish Cam the best of luck. Had a lot of fun doing his highlights over the years. Martin says he's going to make his final decision on his next stop come mid-April. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, a warning from Russia.
Tensions are increasing significantly after tough talk between President Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin. I'm Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon. I've got the details coming up.
And to check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Approaching 5:17 on this Friday morning, hearkening back to that snow that we had early yesterday. I know a lot of you, the later risers, not you and me, we saw it. The later risers probably got up and said, what's snow on the ground? But you got to remember, it was still the astronomical winter. In fact, today is the last day of astronomical winter. You go, what's that different? When we talk about meteorological winter and astronomical winter, meteorological spring began March 1. And that's just an easier way to kind of make that delineation point to where we look at historic records and where we would normally be as far as precipitation and temperatures go, where astronomical spring, that of course follows the spring equinox with the sun, and that will be tomorrow morning. Now, clear Skywatch storm trackers still do have flood warnings along our rivers. The latest one of those down for northeast Oklahoma on the Neosho River, not expiring until we get into Monday morning. The Skywatch storm tracker, finally a chance for the East Coast to kind of calm down. Still little activity there over the Carolinas, but nothing as severe as what they've experienced past couple of days. And then we'll turn our attention to low pressure beginning off the Pacific Northwest that'll slowly creep over the Rockies come the weekend time, play a little role in our weather for the middle of next week. 39 in Pittsburgh, 37 in Carthage, and 39s running from Chanute, Neodesha, and Parsons. 41 right now in Miami, able to do so even with a little northeasterly wind. Luckily, we're not seeing the 35, 40 mile an hour gusts that we had yesterday, just pretty much 10 to 15 miles per hour. And that's going to allow us to have a nice little warm up, especially comparatively speaking where we were middle of the week. We'll go mid-50s today, whole bunch of sunshine, and then overnight, for those of you who are interested in it, spring begins at 4:37 a.m. with the equinox of Central Daylight Time. Clear and cool tomorrow morning, though, only in the 30s, but just let that sun kick in for Saturday afternoon, and we're going to be able to make it up into the 60s here by the time we get done with the weekend. As a matter of fact, we'll roll back-to-back days in the 60s. It's going to be absolutely delightful, not only for Saturday, but Sunday as well. Now, as we talk about next week, there's a low pressure making its way in off the Pacific right there. And it's going to take a while. It's going to have to creep over the Rockies, see how organized that it's able to stay. But then we begin to develop some Gulf moisture down here as well. And, the combination of those two, that's usually going to result in thunderstorm activity. So that's why we take advantage of a marvelous weekend. Because once we get started on Monday, not only do we have the rain kicking in, but cooler temperatures as well. Not a massive cold front by any means, just dropping down into the high 50s. But it looks like it's shaping up to be a wet one also, too. Got anything you want to accomplish outside, like mowing? I'd say this is going to be the weekend to do it. All right, now let's talk about our spring break sweepstakes. It's the opportunity for you to win some big prizes just by watching the KOAM Morning News next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Tune in right here to the show on KOAM, or join us from 7 to 8 over on Fox 14 and watch for The Code Word. Now, once the code word's been announced on the show, just go to KOAMnewsnow.com/codeword, enter it, and that'll be your chance to win a prize from our good friends at Indigo Sky Casino. Again, those words announced next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. Checks went out this week to millions of Americans, meant to provide some relief from the financial hardship inflicted by the pandemic. Brittany Garzillo spoke to a financial advisor who has some tips on what expenses you might consider prioritizing first.
You really, really, really want to have the opportunity to have these new funds in your account work for you.
So how do you do that? Financial advisor Bill Bloom, founder of Bloom Financial based in Chicago, says consider these three things. First,
Really understand your debt, because paying off debt could free up cash flow for you every month.
He suggests paying off credit cards with the highest interest first. Second, Bloom says to consider investing the money, or third, save it for a rainy day.
Most people don't have emergency funds, so you could use this as, the foundation.
If you're a recent college grad, ask yourself this.
Is this going to help me in the future?
If the answer is no, you may want to think twice. Instead,
using the stimulus money to pay off a chunk of those student loans, that's going to save you so much money in the long run.
For moms and dads, Bloom recommends saving the money, including for college.
That $1,400 could turn into a lot more money and help pay off, your children's education.
For those retired,
you could potentially use this money to live off of.
Or Bloom recommends giving to your kids, grandkids, or charity.
One of the things you definitely shouldn't do is just go buy clothes or spend this on things that are frivolous.
Question to you. So 4 states. Quite simple. Asking what are you going to do with your stimulus checks? And you can either leave us a comment on the KOAM News Now Facebook page or take part in our Insta poll. All you have to do is go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. That's KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. We'll be back with Health Watch next.
Topping Health Watch this morning, the CDC released new, more extensive guidance when it comes to coronavirus testing, aimed at places like schools and workplaces and at healthcare providers, calling it a critical part of the approach to stop the spread of COVID-19. Mandy Gaither has a look at the updated recommendations.
In the war on COVID-19, it's a weapon to help get closer to the end of the pandemic.
Reliable and widely available testing is a crucial part of our efforts to stop the spread of COVID-19.
The CDC says anyone with signs or symptoms of COVID-19 should continue to get swabbed during testing. But the agency also says rapid tests at different points in time, also known as serial screening, can help catch asymptomatic infections, allowing for quick identification and isolation of an infected person, especially important when there's a large number of coronavirus cases in a community or a high risk of COVID-19 spreading.
To end this pandemic, everyone must have equal access to affordable and timely testing with fast turnaround time for results to identify infections and reduce community spread.
The guidance is intended for use by healthcare providers and public health officials and those doing testing in places like colleges and universities, workplaces, homeless shelters, and detention facilities. The CDC also says getting a coronavirus vaccine will not affect the results of a COVID-19 viral test. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The guidance says antibody testing is not currently recommended to assess for immunity to COVID-19 following a coronavirus vaccination or to assess the need for vaccination in an unvaccinated person. 2 infectious disease experts at Georgetown University Medical Center say COVID-19 vaccines are not enough to end the pandemic. The researchers believe symptomless transmission is driving the spread of coronavirus, and understanding that transmission will be the key to eradicating the problem. If working from home is giving you the blues, be kind to yourself. A study in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology found that practicing self-compassion lessened feelings of work loneliness. Researchers say companies can help employees with clear communication about pandemic responses and job security, and even host voluntary social activities to boost morale. Putting pen to paper may help you remember better. A study in Japan found writing on paper led to more brain activity when recalling the information an hour later, compared with note-taking on tablets or smartphones. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
We're going to get a good look at a whole bunch of sunshine today on this Friday. It is the last day of astronomical winter, and temperatures are going to be all the way up into the mid-50s, a far cry from the snow that was dropping just 24 hours ago. Do have a little north breeze, but we'll keep it at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Please remember, multiple flood warnings still exist along a number of our rivers, lasting all the way in to Monday. Going to be a delightful looking weekend. Spring equinox, 4:47 tomorrow morning. And then we're going to kick more sunshine with back-to-back days in the 60s on Saturday and Sunday. If you got to get outside, get some mowing done, want to start some garden, might be the day to do it, because next week we are shaping up to be a wet and cooler one. Temperatures into the 50s and chances for rain persisting all the way to the middle of the week.
Every adult will soon be eligible to get the vaccine in Missouri. We'll have the latest. Plus, it's been 1 year since the city of Joplin declared a state of emergency. A look at the city's plan to return to normal and why Justice for Joplin says a diversity officer would benefit students and staff.
The four states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. The rain is gone. You can enjoy a nice sunny day going into quite a beautiful weekend. Here's Michael with a check on your forecast.
Waiting for those skies to lighten up a little bit outside the mothership here, but great news that the barometer is on the rise. That means clearing out, not even cloud cover to worry about, never mind precipitation. Harken back just 24 hours ago and we were watching snowfall. This is actually our last day of astronomical winter, and it's not too bad of a start, really. Temperatures ranging from 41 in Miami to 37 in Lamar and 39 right now in Chanute. Got a little bit of a wind chill because it works in from the north, but so far just a 120 on the board. That's going to be up in Iola where it feels like it's 28. Sunrise officially here at 7:29, and once it kicks in, we'll be able to make it up into the mid-50s. So a little bit cooler than what we'd anticipate here for the middle of March, but not too far off. And Future Track is going to provide us with additional sunshine on Saturday and Sunday with warmer temperatures that'll make it all the way up into the mid-60s. So about time to get out the old lawnmower forecast here. Everything's starting to green up with the amount of rain that we picked up here middle of the week. And it's going to be a great time to get it done because with Saturday being the first day of spring, we'll be chomping at the bit to get some fresh air. And then thunderstorms are going to kick in next week. So this will be a chance for us to dry out 3 consecutive days coming off of our severe weather middle of the week before we revamp next week. Tanya?
All right, thanks, Michael. The state of Missouri will advance through the next 2 phases of its COVID vaccine rollout plan soon. Governor Parson announced yesterday the state will move to phase 2 of its vaccine distribution plan on March 29th. The governor says through phase 2, 800,000 Missourians will become eligible for vaccines. Those include workers in the construction field, critical manufacturing, higher education, the remaining workers in the food and agriculture sectors, and the state's homeless population. On April 9th, the state will move to phase 3 of its vaccination plan. This will make every adult Missourian eligible for a vaccine. Yesterday marks a year since the city of Joplin issued a state of emergency for the pandemic. On March 18th, 2020, the Joplin mayor signed a state of emergency declaration, the city's first step in responding to the pandemic. At the time, no cases had been confirmed in the city, but as we know now, that wouldn't last long. The declaration restricted mass gatherings to under 50 people and limited the number of people at certain businesses to 50% of their capacity. Mayor Ryan Stanley says at the time they had no idea the pandemic would last as long as it has.
I remember back in March, in my mind thinking, how long is this going to be? And maybe it's leaving us by June. But if you would have asked me in March of 2020 whether we would still be in it in March of 2021, I would have been surprised if we still were.
Case rate in the city has decreased dramatically in the last few months. In November, the 7-day average of new cases was 47 per day. Wednesday, that number was just over 3 new cases per day. Joplin for Justice creates a coalition with other 4 state groups dedicated to social justice. They're calling on the Joplin School District to hire a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer for the upcoming school year. The groups that make up this coalition say the Joplin School District is becoming more diverse every year, and hiring a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer will help it adjust to student and staff needs.
A diversity officer is going to have a very specific role targeting policies, practices, and even providing trainings to our staff and faculty. So really focused on making this an inclusive and welcoming environment in every way.
Joplin for Justice says they haven't received a response to their hiring request, but says they plan to follow up. 5 police officers in Oklahoma City face manslaughter charges in the death of a 15-year-old robbery suspect. Newly obtained surveillance video appears to show him dropping his gun before he was shot. And you're about to see that footage as well as police body cam video of the incident. But a word of warning, the graphic nature of the footage may be too disturbing for some of you. Paris Jones has the story.
Show us your hands, sir. Nobody has to get hurt. Just show us your hands.
Where's he at?
Right here in the window.
Okay.
Newly released body cam and surveillance video today showing the intense moments leading to the shooting death of Stavian Rodriguez, who police say robbed a convenience store at gunpoint before they arrived. Police giving him several verbal commands before you see him climb out of the drive-thru window, lifting his shirt and then putting his hands up before taking out a gun and dropping it.
No!
He reaches toward his back pocket before several officers open fire. Tonight, 5 of the 6 officers who shot at Stavian are charged with first-degree manslaughter. Court documents say those 5, quote, all unnecessarily fired lethal rounds at Stavian, which caused his death. The 6th officer, not charged, fired a non-lethal weapon. Court documents also say Stavian didn't have any other weapons, but they did find a cell phone in his back pocket. The Fraternal Order of Police issued a statement today standing by the officers. They say, quote, officers must make life and death decisions in a split second, relying on their training. When an armed robbery suspect did not obey police commands, 5 officers perceived the same threat and simultaneously fired their weapons.
All 5 officers are now on administrative leave. Stavian's alleged accomplice, 17-year-old Wyatt Cheatham, faces first-degree murder charges. He's not accused of directly killing anyone. But in Oklahoma, suspects can be charged with murder if anyone dies, while certain felonies are being committed. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News. Our own Jesse Irwin introduces us to a woman who says a court-appointed special advocate changed her and her children's lives. Plus, a chilling warning from the Russian leader after President Biden called him a killer. We'll have the latest, but first, it's 5:37.
Clear and sunny on this Friday. Temperatures up into the mid-50s, a delightful change from where we've been past couple of days. Little north breeze, just 5 to 10 miles per hour. We were talking about it. Instead of talking about it, let's show it. Time to break out the mowing forecast, as today is the last day of astronomical winter, and Saturday will be our first day of spring, the spring equinox, 4:37 tomorrow, Central Daylight Time. I'll put today in as fair, just because we're still fighting some puddles, trying to work our way out from the rain that we had earlier this week. Saturday and Sunday are going to be absolutely perfect for a little yard work. And why is Monday in the poor category? Well, guess what's coming back next week? Additional thunderstorm activity as we drop into the 60s. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News and World Watch right after this.
Topping World Watch, Russia seeks an explanation over President Biden's assessment of Vladimir Putin as a killer. Jennifer Griffin has details from the Pentagon.
A war of words erupted just hours after President Biden vowed that Vladimir Putin would pay a price for attempting to undermine the 2020 U.S. election and agreed that the Russian president is a killer.
Regarding my American colleague's statement, as he said, we know each other personally. What I would answer him, I would tell him stay healthy. I wish him good health. I say this without irony.
A chilling warning from the Russian leader whose spies used a banned nerve agent to poison Putin's main opponent. Putin then challenged Biden to talk tomorrow or Monday.
I want to invite Biden to continue this discussion, but on the condition we do it live, online, without any delay, in an open, direct discussion. I think it would be interesting.
In an interview that aired Wednesday, Biden did not mince his words.
So you know Vladimir Putin, you think he's a killer?
Mm-hmm. I do.
So what price must he pay?
The price he's going to pay, well, you'll see shortly.
A Kremlin spokesman said there hasn't been anything like this in history as the Russian president analyzed the comments.
I remember when we were young and would bicker out in the yard. We would say, I'm rubber and you're glue. Bad names bounce off me and stick to you. We always see our own qualities in other people and assume that they are just like us.
Putin accused the U.S. of past genocide, slavery, and referenced Black Lives Matter, themes that Russian bots use online to divide Americans. The U.S. sanctioned Russia this week for poisoning Putin's opponent, Alexei Navalny, and is also planning to respond to Russia's recent hacking and 2020 election disinformation campaigns.
The president reserves the right to respond in a manner and time of his choosing, as any president would. But he did make clear that the Russian government will pay a price.
A declassified U.S. intelligence report accused Russia of meddling in the 2020 election. It mentioned Russia 64 times. The escalating tensions come as Russia hosts a new round of peace talks between the Taliban, the Afghan government, and 4 other countries, including the U.S., which needs Russia's help to end the fighting in Afghanistan.
Angered by President Biden's remarks, Putin recalled Russia's ambassador back to Moscow for consultations, something Moscow has not done in protest in more than 20 years. Barbie is now a cosmonaut. The Mattel toy company announcing earlier in the week they manufactured a Barbie to look like Russia's only active female cosmonaut, Anna Kikina. While the doll will not be sold to the general public, the latest Barbie doll is part of Mattel's campaign to inspire women. Kikina is expected to become the 4th Russian woman to go into space with a fall 2022 mission to the International Space Station. That's awesome. An Egyptian designer is using biodegradable materials to craft creative countertops. 31-year-old Rania Akela uses egg and nut shells to make the environmentally friendly products, which are used as a plastic replacement. The shells are processed into powder and heated so it can be used later to make other items, including jewelry and decorative bowls. Akela says she came up with the idea when she was young by watching her father crack nutshells and thinking about the waste. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Let's toss it over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Conda. KOAM News Now Facebook page, Morning Insta Poll. We're talking stimulus checks this morning, wondering what you're going to do when they arrive in the old accounts. We'll start with Megan Grebe-Fordyce. Megan writes, saving it for a rainy day. Sheila Bach-Bradley, taking a trip to Florida later in the year. Can't beat that. Sheila says, we've all earned a trip to the beach, I think. Rocky Cunningham, paying some bills, catching up, spending the leftover 20 on beer and Powerball. Love you, Aunt Pat. Christine Shaw, that's a good picture too, Rocky. Christine Shaw, paying bills. Kayla Marie, I'm going to be thinking about you. Kayla Marie's getting her wisdom teeth out. It's not that bad, Kayla. Everybody's got a story about it. It ain't that bad. Michelle Pacini, the more you owe. Very nice, Michelle. Jason Scott, saving it to pay for gas. Corey Cecil Holmes, paying bills. And Penny Luongo, getting vehicles fixed and putting the rest in savings. I had a couple more I can roll through here. Will Batiste, KOM, sorry, I can't tell you. And John Treeben, guns, ammo, cameras, and a big dog. Good morning, KOM. Good morning, America. We say good morning, John. As far as the KOM Insta poll goes right now, 55% say you're going to use that stimulus money to pay bills and debt. Follow right behind it with saving it or investing it at 25%. You can make your voice heard. Just go to komnewsnow.com/vote. Be back with the news you need to know before you head out the door right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. President Biden's administration reached its goal of giving 100 million COVID vaccines in its first 100 days. That's some 6 weeks ahead of schedule, but that victory is tempered as more than a dozen states have seen recent surges in new COVID cases. Yesterday marks a year since the city of Joplin declared a state of emergency for the pandemic. On March 18, 2020, the Joplin mayor signed a state of emergency declaration, the city's first step in responding to the pandemic. The declaration restricted mass gatherings to under 50 people and limited the number of people at certain businesses to 50% of their capacity. The case rate in the city has decreased dramatically in the last few months. In November, the 7-day average of new cases was 47 per day. Wednesday, that number was just over 3 new cases per day. Joplin for Justice creates a coalition with other 4 state groups dedicated to social justice, and they're calling on the Joplin School District to hire a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer for the upcoming school year. The groups that make up this coalition say the Joplin School District is becoming more diverse every year. Hiring a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer will help it adjust to student and staff needs. Kansas lawmakers on both sides are trading sometimes bitter accusations as Republican lawmakers advance a proposal to ban transgender students from girls' and women's school sports. The GOP-controlled state Senate approved a bill that would enact the ban, sending the measure to the Republican-controlled House. Governor Laura Kelly calls it regressive. The Senate's top Democrat calls the bill hateful and suggests her male colleagues were arguing that men are just superior. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
It's a pretty welcome sight over the Midwest and Deep South to finish off our work week as the contiguous 48 remain quiet. Little action in the Mid-Atlantic, and then we've got another storm system making its way off the Pacific coast. But everything for us in the heartland looking delightful. Now, it's a little bit chilly out there. We're hanging on to some low 40s in northeast Oklahoma. Everybody else pretty much mid to high 30s. But let the old sunshine kick in because it's going to be a great looking afternoon. Temperatures all the way up into the mid 50s. Now that's a little bit below where we'd normally be for a March 19th. But you have to remember, a week that we've had thunderstorms. We had snow 24 hours ago. And now we're going to be sunny and in the 50s. Let's just take it. Let's take it and run with it and keep on working up on the old thermometer. Mid-60s on Saturday and Sunday. Hey, Saturday is the first day of spring equinox. Tomorrow, 4:37 in the morning. All the latest for you on the Skywatch weather app.
Invaluable, especially when it feels like no one else has your back. And for thousands of kids across the country, that person is a court-appointed special advocate. And one Carthage family can tell you the level of support that these volunteers bring.
They were just two really scared kids that just walked into our door with a caseworker.
It's a sight that Elizabeth Carter had seen before. At that point, she'd wanted to be a mother for nearly 7 years. In the meantime, she and her husband, Matt, had decided to do foster care.
We fostered 6 different children in Arkansas, and then we moved to Texas, and we decided, okay, fine, we'll try siblings. We'll take 2 at a time.
Another new element was that the siblings were assigned a court-appointed special advocate, or CASA.
It just really opened my eyes because I had never had foster children that had a CASA before. Because unfortunately, there's not enough CASA advocates for every single foster care case.
A national organization with chapters across the United States, CASA served more than 275,000 children in 2019, an impact made by each one of the nearly 100,000 volunteer advocates.
And she's really responsible for why they even ended up at our house. They had been staying with a relative, and the CASA was just checking in to make sure that rules were being followed, that the children were safe, and she caught things that were not being seen by other people, and that's how they ended up moving to our house.
Over the next 9 months, the Carters took care of the 2 children as if they were their own. And that's exactly who Reese and Rowan Carter became.
Best thing that's ever happened to me. That is an understatement. They're the best thing that's ever happened to us. They're amazing.
Today, all 4 Carters live in Jasper County, where last year alone, the Casa chapter served 149 kids. And one of their volunteer advocates is Elizabeth, who knows as well as anybody the difference someone in her shoes can make.
To have a CASA advocate speaking for the children, but then also listening to me and just like actually doing the work of piecing things together, it was life-changing and it was eye-opening. And that's when I knew if I were ever to be done fostering, CASA had to be the next step because it really changed the entire course of my children's life. This one woman paying attention to them.
Well, so far in 2021, including rollover from last year, Jasper County CASA has served 139 children. You can learn more on their Facebook page and sign up for volunteer training on their website. We'll have those links on ours and be right back after this. But first, we do want to tell you about our spring break sweepstakes. That's right, you now have the opportunity to win some big prizes just for watching the KOAM morning news. It's Spring Break Sweepstakes next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Tune in to the show here on KOAM or over on our sister station, Fox 14, and watch for a code word. And once the code word has been announced on the show, just go to KOAMnewsnow.com/code word and enter for your chance to win a prize from Indigo Sky Casino. Again, those code words will be announced next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So make sure you join us here, and we'll be right back after this.
Don't forget, you can always jump on Facebook in the morning. Go to Michael Hayslett, KOAM. If it pops up like that, you just hit the refresh button. Go down, and that's the same forecast that you can find on the Skywatch weather app. That's downloadable for free on all your mobile devices. So, like I said, take advantage of it if you feel like it. And one thing that we're concentrating on today, whether it be on the app or KOAMnewsnow.com, is our mowing forecast. Went ahead and did fair for today, simply because we still got puddles and ditches that are full of water from all the rain that we got earlier this week. But with temperatures and sunshine taking us up to the 60s for Saturday and Sunday, those look like perfect days. You know, whether it be cleaning up the limbs, whether it be starting the mowing, or maybe getting the garden all ready to go. Can't beat it for the first day of spring. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Every adult will soon be eligible to get the vaccine in Missouri. We'll have the latest. Plus, it's been 1 year since the city of Joplin declared a state of emergency. A look at the city's plan to return to normal and why Justice for Joplin says a diversity officer would benefit students and staff.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. Well, after quite a bit of rain over the past week, it is gone. We can enjoy a nice sunny day and a beautiful weekend. Here's Michael with a check on your forecast.
Not only the rain, Tanya, you remember what we were talking about 24 hours ago?
Cold
Where
weather?
in the world does snow come from?
Right?
Now we're going to end up with temperatures up into the mid-50s with a whole bunch of sunshine on what is our last day of winter. 37 in Joplin, 38 in Parsons, 36 right now in Nevada. Northeast Oklahoma have been able to hold on to the low 40s in Miami and Grove all morning long. We are seeing a little dip in our temperatures. Earlier, Iola was our only one with a wind chill down into the 20s. Now we've got to include Nevada and Stockton in there, as it does come in from the northeast, but just 5 to 10 miles per hour. No wind advisories or anything like that. Sunrise officially over Joplin at 7:29, and then we can finally begin our much-needed warm-up. Say bye-bye to the clouds. They'll push east of the Mississippi. The entire Midwest going to be in store for a delightful, not only end of winter, but beginning of astronomical spring as well. Our next system will come over the Pacific Northwest. Good news for everybody down south and at the Mid-Atlantic as we head into the weekend as they get a break from the severe weather they've been mired in for the past 36 hours. Spring will be here officially 4:37 tomorrow morning Central Daylight Time, and then we're going to roll back-to-back 64s with a whole bunch of sunshine. Great idea to get any yard work done. I know you're going to have to jockey back and forth because you're going to be tempted to watch a little basketball here on KOAM because we've got thunderstorm activity that's going to kick in through the middle of next week. Tanya?
Thanks, Michael. Every adult in Missouri will be eligible to get a COVID-19 vaccine starting in early April. Governor Parson announced yesterday the state will move to phases 2 and 3 of its vaccine distribution plan earlier than expected. He says it's due to an influx in vaccines after purchases at the federal level.
When we activated Tier 3, we said we would be able to activate Phase 2 within 45 days of March the 15th. However, with progress we're currently seeing and vaccine supply expected to increase significantly in the coming weeks, we are well ahead of schedule.
The state will move to phase 2 of its vaccine distribution plan on March 29th. The governor says through phase 2, more than 800,000 Missourians will become eligible for vaccines. Those include workers in the construction field, critical manufacturing, higher education, the remaining workers in the food and agriculture sectors, and the state's homeless population. On April 9th, the state will move to phase 3 of its vaccination plan that'll make every adult Missourian eligible for a vaccine. Yesterday marked a year since the city of Joplin took its first actions toward preventing the spread of COVID-19. KOAM's Zach Dodge has how far we've come since then as restrictions begin to loosen and the number of new cases are dropping.
Well, the last time we had Third Thursday would have been October of 2019.
The community event that brings thousands to downtown Joplin has been missing for more than a year.
I think we canceled them one at a time in the beginning, just kind of thinking, oh, well, this is just a blip.
On March 18th, 2020, Joplin passed a state of emergency declaration in response to COVID-19, the first action the city would take to combat the virus. A city ordinance passed the same day limiting certain businesses' capacity to 50% and public gatherings to no more than 50 people.
It was impactful not only to our organization, to our downtown in general and our downtown businesses, but also to the vendors that set up and, all the different pieces that fall into place.
But if you would have asked me in March of 2020 whether we would still be in it in March of 2021, I would have been surprised.
Mayor Ryan Stanley says every decision the city has had to make has been challenging, that first one being no exception.
Hindsight is 2020. We can always look back and say we should have done this sooner, we should have done this later, and so forth. So it's absolutely not been perfect.
Moving forward from there was the state and city stay-at-home orders, 2 mask mandates, and thousands of cases in the city, with cases reaching a peak in November when the 7-day average was 47 new cases per day. But now that average is just above 3 new cases per day, with hospitalizations tapering off dramatically. Because of that, restrictions have been lifted, and many feel like we're getting closer to normal.
And it does feel like we're playing a winning hand now.
So the Downtown Alliance feels confident they can bring back Third Thursday next month.
We're feeling pretty confident with the numbers going down, with the vaccines rolling out. I think something like this, an outdoor event like this, is more feasible, of course, than it was at all last year.
In Joplin, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
When Third Thursday does return in April, it will look a bit different. The number of vendors is being limited. Vendors will be more spread out, and there won't be any live performances. Joplin for Justice creates a coalition with other 4 state groups dedicated to social justice, and they're calling on the Joplin School District to hire a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer for the upcoming school year. The groups that make up this coalition say the Joplin School District is becoming more diverse every year, and hiring a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer will help it adjust to student and staff needs.
A diversity officer is going to have a very specific role targeting policies, practices, and even providing trainings to our staff and faculty. So really focused on making this an inclusive and welcoming environment in every way.
And Joplin for Justice says they haven't received a response to their hiring request, but says they plan to follow up. Kansas lawmakers on both sides are trading sometimes bitter accusations as Republican lawmakers advance a proposal to ban transgender students from girls' and women's school sports. The GOP-controlled state Senate approved a bill that would enact the ban, sending the measure to the Republican-controlled House. Governor Laura Kelly calls it regressive. The Senate's top Democrat calls the bill hateful and suggests her male colleagues were arguing that men are just superior. But supporters argue that girls and women would lose scholarships and other life-changing opportunities without such a ban, and repeatedly referred to transgender girls as biological boys. A crash on K7 and 630th Avenue in Crawford County, Kansas kills a Girard man. The Kansas Highway Patrol says Gary Puffenberger was going west on 630th. The Highway Patrol says he failed to yield and hit a crossing semi. Puffenberger died at the scene. The driver of the semi was not hurt. Pittsburgh's Little Balkans Days Festival is returning this year. Last year's event was canceled because of the pandemic. Officials say funds donated for last year's event will roll over to this year. Fees for vendors will also be reduced. The festival will be on Labor Day weekend. 6:07.
And we have temperatures up into the mid-50s later on this afternoon. Going to be absolutely delightful. And if you want to get some outdoor work started, today it's still a little bit muddy out there, especially in those ditches and whatnot. Well, Saturday and Sunday shaping up just to be perfect to spend some time outside. More sunshine, temps in the mid-60s, and then on Monday, reason it's going to be great on Saturday and Sunday, because Monday afternoon we're going to roll it again as thunderstorm and rain works all the way through the middle of the week.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, our own Jesse Irwin talks to Casa of Northeast Oklahoma about their paper doll project in the fight against COVID.
There is promising news in the fight against the coronavirus as the number of Americans getting vaccinated surpasses expectations. I'm Naomi Ruckham with possible new CDC guidelines that could help schools reopen.
Plus, restaurants who were forced to permanently close during the pandemic are facing another major challenge. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. In Money Watch this morning, the pandemic led to more than 100,000 restaurants shutting their doors for good. But the misfortune of those business owners has been a boon for others. Chris Martinez explains.
Restaurant owner Johnny Matheny worked to keep his San Francisco eatery Solstice afloat during the shutdowns, but was forced to close the doors for good.
After 10 months of not being able to operate, you can't survive.
He tried to sell some of the equipment to a commercial auction house to recoup some of his losses.
And he goes, no, I don't want anything. I have too many calls. I have too much inventory.
Suppliers like Jose Bonilla Jr. have been flooded with calls from restaurants looking to unload equipment.
They've put every resource they could possibly put into their business to try to survive, and they just cannot survive no more.
As the pandemic has continued to impact businesses, the auction industry has actually become busier and busier.
John Schultz from the National Auctioneers Association says the number of auctions held last year were way up, along with sales.
It's a bittersweet thing for me, as I see these businesses closing, and it's sad, right? It's sad for me. But for us, it's been actually a record year.
But now there's so much inventory, it's become harder to find buyers. Bonilla's warehouse is packed with 2,000 pieces. That gave Matheny few options.
So we just put it in storage. We'll use it.
He owns 2 other restaurants and hopes to put the equipment to good use eventually. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Oil prices have hit a speed bump, a sign demand remains low even after a year of shutdowns and stay-at-home orders. Crude futures have seen 5 straight days of losses. Yesterday, they dipped 7% to close at $60 a barrel. Tide Detergent is encouraging cold water washing to save your money and to save the planet. Tide plans to launch its Turn to Cold Water campaign soon. The goal is for consumers to do 3 out of every 4 loads of laundry with cold water instead of hot by the year 2030. If this goal is met, Tide says it will have the same impact on greenhouse gas emissions as removing about 1 million cars from the road for a year. It'll also save you some money, up to $150 a year in energy costs if you wash with cold water. That's it for Money Watch. We'll be right back.
We're rolling up on 617, do a little weather on the 7, still waiting on the skies to lighten up outside Television City here. We still got about an hour, 23 minutes before official sunrise is upon us, but we won't have any trouble once we get into the thick of the day. Cloud cover moving off to the southeast and a whole bunch of clear sky and high pressure. Now, with that being said, still do want to point out, you name a river, it's pretty much got a flood warning on it. That one, the expiration date not until Monday morning. That's for the southern edge of the Neosho River running through southwest Missouri, just in case you weren't with us for the noon yesterday. Additional warnings included the Spring River through Carthage and then a northward expansion of the Neosho as well. And the Marmonton, Little Osage, Sac River, those we've had those since the middle of the week. We knew those weren't going to move. A little bit of a break off the Atlantic coast right there. This is lightening up. It's going to push off into the Atlantic Ocean. Southeast gets a chance to take a breath and begin their weekend of cleanup after the severe weather that they had middle of the week. Low pressure now developing out in the Pacific Northwest, making its way inland. And it's going to be slow creep for it. It's not going to get on us anytime soon. 41 in Miami, 37 in Carthage, and 38 right now in Parsons. And able to have not too bad mid-March temperatures, even with a northeasterly wind. We're not seeing a big gap as far as our wind chills go. Up into the mid-50s later on today with that little north breeze. Now, as we work into the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, just going about to get spoiled. Saturday, 4:47 tomorrow morning. I don't know how many of you will be up to enjoy it and celebrate it, but 4:47 tomorrow morning will be the official start of astronomical spring. That's when the spring equinox will take place for the Central Daylight Time zone. A 7-day forecast, back-to-back beautiful days on Saturday and Sunday. Now, here's where we begin our action. That's why if you want to get some yard work done, that's going to be it. Probably a little too damp today, but Saturday and Sunday are going to be absolutely great. And then we're going to kick in thunderstorm activity, take us into the middle of next week. Now, over to Jesse in Studio K.
Well, today we're talking about the Casa Program, which is available all around the United States and here in the 4 states as well. And this morning we were fortunate enough to be joined by the folks at Casa of Northeast Oklahoma. We were joined by Angela Henderson, the Executive Director, and Melissa Barnes, the Marketing Director. And thank you both for joining us. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm happy to be able to speak with you about Casa today because I know you guys have a lot going on. And before we get into the Paper Doll Project, Angela, would you mind just explaining what kind of an impact Casa is able to make in the Northeast Oklahoma area?
Our Casa program is the new regional model of the National Casa Association, which is based out of Seattle, Washington. That is where Casa got its start in 1977. There was a judge there who just felt like he wasn't getting all the information that he needed about the children. And so he had this brilliant idea to train citizen volunteers to go out and see about the children and what was going on in their circumstances, and then come back to court and report on that. And it worked. And so, now we're, all these many years into it, and we're still able to provide the services that abused and neglected children need. Here in Northeast Oklahoma, that impact is in 3 judicial districts and in 6 district courts and in 2 tribal courts.
Yeah, well, that's a beautiful segue into what I want to ask you about, Melissa, because I understand there are so many different ways that you can get involved. Of course, volunteering is the way that can make the biggest direct impact. But I mean, right along with that, the Paper Doll Project shows the way that the community can get involved. So, I mean, can you explain what the Paper Doll Project is and sort of a timeline of what's going to be happening now until the end of March and then heading into April as well?
Sure. We came up with a Paper Doll Project. They're little wooden cutouts of children. I have one right here. This is a sample of one of our little cutouts. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah.
So businesses and individuals can sponsor or foster a paper doll through the month of April. And so what that means is they will receive their paper doll. They will dress the doll in an outfit and display it somewhere in their place of business or home or church throughout the whole month of April. And then on April 30th, Casa will be coming around and gathering up all those little kiddos, and we're going to take them down to the Ottawa County courthouse lawn, and we're going to display them there all day and into the evening. And I've got into our Casa's Cherish the Children Cruise Night. So this is a fun community event that we're going to do some good old-fashioned Dragon Main. We're going to have a live band. We're going to have a car show, food trucks, as well as booths with resources for our families and children. Casa will have a booth, so if you're interested in volunteering, you may come and we'll answer any questions you might have and get you started on that. We need foster homes in our area, so DHS will be here offering that opportunity for community members, and just get an idea of the resources our families have and all the entities that play a part into that.
Well, we really appreciate you explaining that for us. We're going to have all that information on our morning show page, but thank you so much to the two of you for joining us this morning, and thank you for all the work that you guys do and all the volunteers do to keep Northeast Oklahoma safe, happy, and healthy, especially over the past year. I know how difficult it's probably been for your organization, so we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have a great day.
You too. Thank you. We're going to have that info on our morning show page, and we will be right back on the KOAM Morning News right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, the White House says the U.S. has achieved a key goal in the fight against the coronavirus, but experts are saying it's far too soon for anyone to declare victory. Naomi Ruckham reports from New York.
In the 58 days since President Biden took office, the U.S. has administered more than 100 million COVID-19 vaccines. The president had set a goal of doing that in his first 100 days.
But I've always said, that's just the floor. We will not stop until we beat this pandemic.
Today, Mr. Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris will visit the CDC headquarters in Georgia. CBS News has learned that the agency plans to reduce its social distancing guidance for schools from 6 feet to 3. The change could allow more students to return to class.
We don't really know what that magical point of herd immunity is.
Dr. Anthony Fauci advised caution during an appearance on Capitol Hill.
If we pull back prematurely, we may trigger another surge.
Residents here in New York are among those who listen to warnings like that and get increasingly anxious, wondering when vaccines will be more widely available.
In your home, you're like a prisoner. You can't do much, and you can't have people over. It hasn't been very good. But hopefully, soon, hopefully by July, things are much better.
After trending downward for weeks, at least 15 states say their infection numbers are once again rising. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
The Biden administration said it will send 2.5 million vaccine doses to Mexico and another 1.5 million to Canada. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Good looking Friday ahead of us. Sunny skies, temperatures up into the 50s, and able to do that even though this morning we're sitting in the mid 30s. Yeah, it's a little touch lower than what we'd anticipate here for middle of March, but at least we're able to say goodbye to winter. That's right. Tomorrow morning at 4:47 will be the beginning of spring with the equinox over the 4 states. And look at Saturday and Sunday. Additional sunny skies and temps in the 60s. Now we look forward to Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We see the rain kicking in. It'll be here really Monday late afternoon into the evening hours. So it's little puddles outside maybe make it a little difficult to get a whole lot done. Maybe this evening you can get started. Saturday and Sunday going to be absolutely perfect conditions to kind of wrap it up. We'll be back with more KOAM.
I didn't know that camera was working.
Every adult will soon be eligible to get the vaccine in Missouri. We'll have the latest. Plus, it's been 1 year since the city of Joplin declared a state of emergency. A look at the city's plan to return to normal and why Justice for Joplin says a diversity officer would benefit students and staff.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. Who's ready for sunshine? I know I am, and I'm ready for a wonderful weekend. Here's Michael with a check on your forecast.
Going to be absolutely gorgeous to wrap up winter, which is what we do today, with spring beginning tomorrow. A clear Skywatch storm tracker, not even any cloud cover to worry about. Temperatures have ranged anywhere from the low 30s on Iola, right below the freezing mark, 36 in Monette. We've consistently seen northeast Oklahoma been able to hang on to the low 40s. And then we'll run 38 in Parsons, 39 in Independence. Do have a little bit of a wind chill, but now we're starting to rebound. Mount Vernon has dropped down to 29, Nevada and Stockton now back up out of the 20s, albeit barely. Average high this time of year would be 61. We'll fall just a skosh short of that, top out around 55, 56, but whole bunch of sunshine. Absolutely no worries, which we deserve coming off of not only thunderstorm activity. You have to remember 24 hours ago, we were looking at snow on the ground. So as we progress into Saturday morning, it gets a little cool. We drop down close to freezing there for Saturday, but then right back into the 50s by the noon hour. How about we roll up some 60s by the time Saturday and Sunday are done? Take advantage of a great weekend, because beginning Monday afternoon and evening, thunderstorms going to kick back in, and we're going to have to ride additional shots of rain all the way to the middle of next week. Tanya?
All right. Yeah, enjoy it before it starts to rain again. The state of Missouri will advance through the next 2 phases of its COVID vaccine rollout plan soon. Governor Parson announced yesterday the state will move to phase 2 of its vaccine distribution plan on March 29th. Governor says through phase 2, 800,000 Missourians will become eligible for vaccines. Those include workers in the construction field, critical manufacturing, higher education, the remaining workers in the food and agriculture sectors, and the state's homeless population. On April 9th, the state will move to phase 3 of its vaccination plan, and this will make every adult Missourian eligible for a vaccine. Yesterday marked a year since the city of Joplin declared a state of emergency for the pandemic. On March 18, 2020, the Joplin mayor signed a state of emergency declaration, the city's first step in responding to the pandemic. The declaration restricted mass gatherings to under 50 people and limited the number of people at certain businesses to 50% of their capacity. That meant many events like Third Thursday had to be canceled, but the Downtown Joplin Alliance now plans to bring the fan favorite back next month with a few changes.
We're just going to try to spread vendors out. We're going to try to make sure we have the vendors with probably an extra booth space in between. And we're not going to do any major performances or things like that early on. Just again, trying to reduce spots of congestion.
The case rate in the city has decreased dramatically in the last few months. In November, the 7-day average of new cases was 47 per day. Wednesday, that number was just over 3 new cases per day. A coalition of local social justice groups calls on the Joplin School District to make a new hire to help the district deal with diversity. KOAM's Mike Mahoney spoke to them about what they'd like to see change.
Joplin for Justice has created a coalition with other 4-state groups dedicated to social justice, including the Joplin NAACP, Jomo Pride, the Emancipation Celebration Committee, and more. And they've issued a call of action to the Joplin School District.
A call to action that we hire a full-time diversity, equity, and inclusion officer in Joplin schools.
The groups that make up this coalition say the Joplin School District is becoming more diverse every year, and hiring a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer will help it adjust to student and staff needs.
A diversity officer is going to have a very specific role targeting policies, practices, and even providing trainings to our staff and faculty. So really focused on making this an inclusive and welcoming environment in every way.
One of the reasons the Joplin NAACP is on board is because they feel similar hires in other cities have proven to be successful.
This is a nationwide movement. This is not a Joplin movement, and hopefully Joplin, they are listening. They're going to take this step, and it's going to be a grassroots. It's just going to spread because it's nothing but positive.
Joplin school representatives were unavailable for an interview, but the district's director of educational support pointed to the school's social equity group at West Central Elementary, saying, "Our goal is to scale our work more district-wide to focus not only on faculty and staff training, but also look at more effective ways we can attract and retain minority teachers and staff, adjust our curriculum to be more inclusive of minority representation, while examining minority student academic outcomes and social-emotional needs." Joplin for Justice says they haven't received a response to their hiring request, but says they plan to follow up. In Joplin, Mike Mahoney, KOAM News.
Joplin for Justice Representative Dola Flake also has a personal lawsuit against the Joplin School District that calls for the hiring of a diversity professional. But she says it is unrelated to the hiring request to the district made by Joplin for Justice and others. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News. New information on the 3 attacks in Atlanta.
The president and vice president are in Atlanta today, meeting with leaders in the Asian American community. I'm Naomi Ruckham with new developments in the investigation into the shootings there this week.
Plus, for our Something to Talk About, we're asking, what are you doing with your stimulus check? We let you weigh in. But first, it's 6:30.
Fresh air forecast with sunny skies and a little northerly breeze, just 5 to 10 miles per hour. Please remember, we do still have flood warnings along a number of our rivers, some of those lasting all the way until the beginning of next week. Speaking of next week, that's when the rain begins to kick in. We'll roll Monday afternoon, carry us through the middle of the weekend. So before we get there, let's concentrate on a beautiful Saturday and Sunday. Highs in the mid-60s. Sunday is going to be a little bit blustery. Now wind's going to come in from the south. Could see some wind gusts 35, 40 miles an hour during the afternoon. So do be wary of that if you're trying to get some stuff done outside. Maybe you got to clean out the gutters or something like that. Maybe best to do it on Saturday. It'll be a little bit calmer. Be back with more KOAM Morning News and Nation Watch next.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, the president and vice president will be in Georgia today. Their trip includes a visit with Asian American leaders after the shootings at 3 spas near Atlanta earlier this week, which left 8 people dead. Naomi Ruckham has new developments in the investigation.
Security camera footage obtained by CBS affiliate WGCL sheds new light on the attacks at 3 Atlanta area spas that left 8 people dead. 6 were of Asian descent. The video shows 21-year-old Robert Aaron Long's car pull up to Young's Asian Spa. Police say he confessed to killing 4 people inside before returning to his car and driving away. Investigators say he then traveled to 2 different spas, killing 4 others.
Right now, early in our investigation, it appears that he may have frequented those locations, yes.
While investigators believe a sexual addiction may have motivated the killings, they won't yet say if the attacks were racially motivated.
Our investigation is looking at everything, so nothing is off the table.
President Biden has ordered flags across the country to be lowered to half staff out of respect for the victims. He and Vice President Kamala Harris will visit with Asian American leaders in Atlanta today. This comes after an emotional hearing on Capitol Hill discussing hate against Asian Americans, the first hearing of its kind in 30 years.
And today, even as we face so much bigotry and violence, our community is helping to keep the country running.
At demonstrations across the country, organizers called for law enforcement to label the attacks hate crimes.
Anti-Asian racism must be stopped. Anti-women violence must be stopped, or it's going to stop all of us.
A new report shows that of the thousands of hate incidents targeting Asian Americans in the last year, a vast majority were against women. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
A spokesperson for the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office says Captain Jay Baker, who during a press conference on Wednesday described the alleged shooter as having a bad day, is now off the case. Baker's also drawing scrutiny for Facebook posts appearing to belong to him that last year promoted a T-shirt with racist language about China and COVID-19. President Biden's administration reached its goal of giving 100 million COVID vaccines in its first 100 days. That's some 6 weeks ahead of schedule. But that victory is tempered as more than a dozen states have seen recent surges in new COVID cases. And by some miracle, there were no reported injuries when an Amtrak train with more than 100 passengers on board slammed into a truck stuck on the tracks in Oakland, California. The collision pushed the truck down the tracks, where it burst into flames. Truck driver got out before the wreck. That's a look at today's top national stories. Let's check in with Michael with our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll asking what you plan on doing with your stimulus checks, as the checks went out this week to millions of Americans. We'll pick back up with I did John's. I wanted to start with Heather Atkinson Henson. I got a goat and some pizza. So Heather probably doesn't even care about my lawn mowing forecast. You got a goat. Becky Mingarelli, paying taxes. Guy Hansen asks, why not just throw $5 worth of quarters on the ground, make me pick them up while you laugh? As far as I'm concerned, John says, the entire $1.9 trillion should have gone to the American people, would end up back in the economy, and maybe even some to say. Payoffs to special interests are far more important than the people. Michael Arrowhead used it to pay 2 car payments and 2 months of insurance. Yeah, I really need some new shoes. Oh well. Have a blessed Friday. You as well, Michael. On our Insta poll this morning, the majority of you say paying bills and debts. Right now that's at 50%, with 34% coming in right behind that saying you're either going to save it or invest it. We'll come back, get some more comments, make your voice heard. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Be right back with birthdays and anniversaries after this.
We take this time to honor today's 4th state hero, Corporal Clark Ritchie, a member of the United States Army. He served from 1965 to 1966 in Vietnam. His hometown, Jay, Oklahoma. We are proud to salute Clark Ritchie, our 4th state hero.
I believe we will start our list off with Adeline Zeller, a smiling 5-year-old now. Adeline is in the O Show, and Adeline, I want to tell you, happy birthday, princess, with love from Mom, Dad, and Brinley.
All right, and Canton Bugney turning
what's up,
6
kid?
years old this year. All right, he's got his Kool-Aid there and the shades to go with it.
Happy birthday, kid.
Happy birthday, Canton.
Lucas Natalini. Oh, there you go, kiddo. There you go. That's how you celebrate your 7th birthday, my man. Happy birthday, Lucas. He's in Columbus.
Right, Ellie Falk is 7 strong this year. Happy birthday to Ellie in Pittsburgh.
One of my dudes. He's a teenager. That is unreal. He's one of my dudes right there. That is Marshall Arnett. Marshall, even though that you have made it to the teenage years, I want you to go, you go spoil your mom and dad today. How about that? I'm gonna put the onus on you. Happy birthday, Marshall. I want you to have a great day, kid. I look forward to seeing you soon.
In Pittsburgh, Michaela Wetzel is sweet 16 this year. Nice picture there, Michaela. Happy birthday. Hope you have a great year.
Madison Johnson, a happy 17th birthday to Madison. She is celebrating in Galena.
All right, Madison. Bramborn celebrating birthday number 17 this year. Bram is in Girard.
And in Arma, an 18th birthday, a very happy one to Mr. Gage Chronister.
All right, happy birthday, Gage.
This is our world traveler here.
Yeah. Maggie Evans turning 24 years old this year. Last year, her photo, I remember it had a camel in it on a trip to Israel. This year, Breckenridge, Colorado with a horse.
Cami Pecca, a happy 41st birthday. Now, Cami, I want you to know that these very happy birthday wishes, they come from Brenda. And Cami is in St. Paul. Good looking picture right there.
All right, and Frontenac turning 67 this weekend, Craig Giacometti. Happy birthday.
Friend of mine by the name of Joe Herman. I'll tell you what, it may be Joe's 61st birthday, but I think you could have thrown up that picture of her as a youngin'. I would have been like, man, that looks a lot like Joe Herman right there. Happy birthday, Miss Joe, and I want you to know that we've got a lot of birthday wishes that are headed your way from Grandma, from Shelly, and of course the boys. Joe's just marvelous, marvelous person.
Looks like a movie star pose right there. I like it. In Columbus, Peggy Coble celebrating birthday number 84 this year. Looking great there, Peggy. Hope you have a great one.
Let's keep the party going in the bus because that's where Jennifer Westervelt has a birthday as well. Happy birthday, Miss Jennifer.
All right, Lisa Alsop celebrating another year wiser in Crestline. Our neighbor, Jennifer, happy birthday.
And David and Carl, there's Lisa. Happy birthday, Lisa. We can keep Lisa up for a little bit.
I messed up there. Jennifer is actually in Columbus.
Right.
Lisa is in Crestline.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lisa Alsop.
There she
you
is.
go, Lisa. We're sorry we skipped past you.
Get that picture
That was
back
my
on
bad.
for you, Lisa. Happy birthday, Lisa. And David and Carl Lewis, Carrie Lewis, David and Carrie are celebrating their 10th anniversary. A congratulations to the Lewises. And Miss Carrie, I'm supposed to say this comes from your loving husband. So congratulations, David and Carrie.
Meaning he didn't forget. Nice job, David. All right, we've got Avery Krumsick celebrating a birthday this weekend. And if Avery's celebrating, that means Greg Krumsick is celebrating as well. Happy birthday to both of you. John Betzinger is celebrating birthday number 76 this year in Pittsburgh. And Gina Kotzman turning 41.
Happy birthday to Mr. John there. I haven't seen him in a while, too. Love the Beitzinger family.
We're both on camera, Michael.
I'll run through these here. I got it. Mickey Alexander, a happy birthday in Erie. Diane Wilson, celebrating a birthday. Diane is in Chanute. And Harold Westhoff, big weekend for the Westhoffs right there. Happy birthday to Harold. He celebrates his 62nd. And he is in St. Paul. And that's where you can send him into. Either birthdays at KOAMTV.com or through our website, KOAMNewsNow.com/birthdays. Now, over to Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMNewsNow.com. Sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Plans, but before we get there, I see it. I see the spring break sweepstakes. I tried to read it earlier, as a matter of fact. They took it away from me. They giveth and they taketh away. But I tell you who does not taketh away? our good friends at Indigo Sky Casino. You know why? Because they're the ones that are helping us with our spring break sweepstakes. Next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. All you have to do is tune in right here. Or from 7 to 8 a.m., flip on over, join us on Fox 14. Watch for the code word. Now, when you identify the code word, just head on over to KOAMnewsnow.com/code word, type it in, and enter for your chance to win a prize from our good friends at Indigo Sky. Again, those code words announced next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
All right, here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. President Biden's administration reached its goal of giving 100 million COVID vaccines in its first 100 days. That's some 6 weeks ahead of schedule. But that victory is tempered as more than a dozen states have seen recent surges in new COVID cases. Well, yesterday marks a year since the city of Joplin declared a state of emergency for the pandemic. On March 18, 2020, the Joplin mayor signed a state of emergency declaration, the city's first step in responding to the pandemic. The declaration restricted mass gatherings to under 50 people and limited the number of people at certain businesses to 50% of their capacity. The case rate in the city has decreased dramatically in the last few months. In November, the 7-day average of new cases was 47 per day. Wednesday, that number was just over 3 new cases per day. Joplin for Justice creates a coalition with other 4 state groups dedicated to social justice, and they're calling on the Joplin School District to hire a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer for the upcoming school year. Groups that make up this coalition say the Joplin School District is becoming more diverse every year, and hiring a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer will help it adjust to student and staff needs. Kansas lawmakers on both sides are trading sometimes bitter accusations as Republican lawmakers advance a proposal to ban transgender students from girls' and women's school sports. The GOP-controlled state Senate approved a bill that would enact the ban, sending the measure to the Republican-controlled House. Governor Laura Kelly calls it regressive. The Senate's top Democrat calls the bill hateful and suggests her male colleagues were arguing that men are just superior. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
That live shot outside of Television City, an indicator of a beautiful Friday to come, as the sunshine will lift us up into the mid-60s or mid-50s. 60s, though, on the horizon for both Saturday and Sunday. Remember, tomorrow marks our first day of spring with the equinox here at roughly 4:45 tomorrow morning.
Well, coming up today at noon, we're making Alabama firecrackers in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
And of course, your morning news continues on KOAM, CBS Morning News. That's coming up next.
Or you could join us on Fox 14.
Yeah.
That's another option people have. What is an Alabama firecracker?
It's a great appetizer.
Okay, all right, I'll see you at noon. But yeah, no, we've got great stories over on Fox 14, including the story of a family that has really benefited from the Casa Program. We're going to speak with the Northeast Oklahoma chapter. We're also going to be hearing a story out of the Jasper County one as well. So we'll have that over on Fox 14.
You did a heck of a job with those stories. If you missed them, you're not going to want to miss them around 2 on Fox 14. That does it for this last day of winter. Thank goodness. When we reconvene, will it be spring 2021. Have a great, safe weekend. We'll do this all again on Monday morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.